stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, will you take a roll call?
Mrs. Fine, here. Mr. Holloway?
Yes, here.
Mrs. Smallman? Yes, sir. Mr. Wiggins?
Here.
Mrs. Jordan?
Yeah.
I'm sure you can.
Thank you. Well, it's time for public comment. We will hear comment on agenda-related items this time. Please approach the microphone, list your name and address, and deliver your comments to the audience.
Victoria Austin, Hemlock Street. Because the public must comment on agenda items before the actual item is addressed by the board, we ask for more details or clarity on what the item actually involves. For an example, number 23 today. Why are these items not disclosed with even a minimal level of detail? Because we don't know what we're discussing, can we possibly discuss these undefined agenda items at the end of the meeting? On both May 21st agenda and tonight is an item only listed as discussion, building inspection, Mr. Hollabaugh. I can only assume that this involves the fee schedule for permits that Mr. Hollabaugh stated that he thought were excessive in regard to the athletic facility he is building. However, looking at the February 19th, 2025 meeting minutes on the township website, Resolution 2025-3 was presented, amending the fees. Mr. Mader stated, and I quote, "The changes are minimal. Most of them are $10 changes, actually a couple decreases as well." Ironically, it was Mr. Hollabaugh who motioned to adopt the new fee schedule. It was carried with no opposition. Now Mr. Hollabaugh thinks these fees that he voted for are excessive because they're coming out of his pocket. Between not wanting safety codes to apply and wanting standard permit fees lowered, this looks like a classic case of good for thee, but not for me. Thank you.
Scott Wolzek, Schuster Road. One of the items tonight is vacant property, and I believe the list is out now, and it's kind of lengthy. I've been addressing this for quite some time, and I'm glad that it's finally getting some attention. Maybe we can form, I don't know what you're going to do, form a committee so that we can keep on track of this and keep on top of that. And the live streaming is also on there with equipment purchasing. And Nicole and I had mentioned prior to this about having maybe a high school AD, somebody over here to take care of that computer and do that instead of having Mr. Mader do that. And reuse the old building. The foundation is still over there in the concrete slab. I didn't know whether that would be a good place because it was mentioned how well that was constructed. That was a good place to put the dog shelter. It's already there, and it's kind of out of the way for the access to the back that you have mentioned using prior to this. That's all I have now. Thank you.
So I'm going to add real quick as far as the agenda. So if something comes up, we can't speak to each other. We cannot join or have a quorum. So this is where we discuss those things. And I think that the agenda that's provided is pretty informative. Attached to the minutes of the regular business meeting. Did I bring something? I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Just wanted to share some information. Nicole Zealand, Glasgow Road. Wanted to share some information I found, which I believe would save the township money regarding the live streaming startup costs. Thank you, Mr. Mader, for answering some of my questions this week on the attached invoices and for confirming that a $1,400 MacBook Pro is far beyond the needs of this township. I applaud your diligence of seeking 5 different quotes from printing companies for our newsletter, and I'm requesting that we do the same for our live streaming startup if you don't want to go with Scott and I's idea of involving high school students. I do appreciate wanting to have a seamless setup, and I believe that consulting with other reliable IT companies recommended by our neighbors would be well worth the effort. For instance, Oakmont's manager highly recommended RPC Video, who set up their streaming hardware. Richland Township also informed me that their startup equipment costs were $4,750, and they use Zoom Pro, which is about $200 annually. I also have a contact who's experienced using Zoom Pro, and they share that this option allows for speaker management, automatic muting, and up to 100 attendees. Zoom Webinar, as listed in tonight's proposal, is $850 a year and allows for up to 500 guests. I believe this far exceeds Westview's needs, and I encourage the board to consider starting out with Zoom Pro, and we could always upgrade later if necessary. Furthermore, Verona's administrator shared that they were able to use some leftover ARPA grant money when they implemented live streaming in their township. I've also seen other townships use COVID relief money for streaming. Would we be able to use some of the leftover grant funds to offset some of these startup costs? I really appreciate the board and administration's effort in implementing this valuable service for our community, and I believe that this $8,400 estimate can be brought down if we network with our neighbors and consider the actual needs of our township. Thank you.
Right, some over. Some of these points have some overlap with the Zoom, but definitely not the majority of them. So I'm trying to highlight the benefits of YouTube versus a Zoom live stream. YouTube is more universally known and used. It's preloaded on most phones. Can break live streams up into sections for viewers to jump to a topic they're most interested in. Can automatically create a transcript. Can create polls in live time. Many other local governments are already using YouTube. Can have subtitles, which is important because the the qualities of this room and audio quality of most videos from here tend to be poor. The ability to speed up replay speed, including in live time. If you had to pause the stream, you can speed it back up. You can speed it up to catch back up to the current stream, and then it will automatically switch back to normal speed. YouTube allows for other apps to run in the background on your phone while streaming. This is important for people who want or need to multitask. YouTube channels have the ability to bring both video guests on and audio guests on from a phone call. YouTube channels can mute all guests and choose to unmute when called upon. YouTube has far less technical glitches compared to Zoom. I don't believe there's a significant, if any, cost to operating a YouTube channel, and although I don't foresee view counts getting high, there's also the potential revenue stream that can be created by allowing advertising on the channel, which could help, although in a minor way, with the costs for doing the stream. If there were to be any concerns about losing the video itself, you could just download the video after the stream is finished and then post the file to the township website if so desired. A YouTube link is more convenient and common to share versus a YouTube meeting or versus a Zoom meeting. A simple example of that trend would be how many videos do you see shared from YouTube versus Zoom. There's been some interesting talk about the desire to create an extra step where viewers of a stream would need to email ahead of time to get a link to watch it later that night. So why are you even considering trying to tie up valuable resources and time to pick and choose who gets to watch? If you're genuinely committed to transparency, a YouTube channel use a YouTube channel and have an upcoming live stream set to start at 7 p.m. Followers of the channel who wish to subscribe will get a notification that the stream will be starting, and then you can even set an additional notification for when it officially starts. With respect to the cost of $8,000 to open up the concept of live streaming, hearing that figure, as I watch hundreds of hours of YouTube streaming per month, yes, hundreds, I know that a lot of streamers simply use a $500 cell phone. Some of these people are getting view counts into a few 100,000 in less than 24 hours. So I know the potential for opening up live streaming can come in much lower than 8,000. I get the approach doing it in a fixed location through a position of a local government entity adds some extra cost and equipment, but $8,000 is unreasonable to the taxpayers. Last but not least, did we make the decision to bid this out? If not, why not? And if the answer to that question is that the dollar amount of $8,000 doesn't require a bidding process, why don't we just do that anyways in an effort to respect the taxpayers and operate with a fiduciary mindset?
Banner comments?
Hello, my name's Mike McCary, I live on Rio Drive. I want to thank you for a few minutes of time. I came here, I just want to tell you guys my story, I want you to hear my story. That's all I'm asking. Is this on the agenda, sir?
No, it's up.
No. This will be after the meeting. Oh, I apologize, I'm sorry. Thank you. Um,
Any other comments? Attached to the minutes of the regular business meeting of May 21st, 2025, are there any questions regarding the minutes? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the May 21 regular business meeting as presented?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Hollenbach, second by Mr. Smallman, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Monthly financial report is attached. Are there any questions regarding that report? Do I have a motion to approve the finance officer's report as submitted?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Fleming, second by Mr. Wiggin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Attached to the list of bills, so I have a motion to pay the list of bills is submitted, and I'll approve reimbursable items in compliance with generally accepted accounting practices.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Motion by Mr. Wiggin, second by Mr. Smallman, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Attached to the police chief's report. Are there any questions regarding the chief's report? Any comments? Chief? Yeah.
Thank you.
Attached to public works forward report. Are there any questions? Attached to the engineer's report submitted by student engineer. Are there any questions? Anything out now? Nothing out now.
Just two very quick updates to my written report. The holidays asphalt work by Tresco has been completed now. They still have additional work to do in terms of sealing and backfilling, but the asphalt work is down. And then likewise, next door here, the EMS roof is complete. So that's it.
Any other questions, Mr. Ship? Attached to the plans on the code enforcement report. Are there any questions? Attached is list year number 1 fire department report. Are there any questions? Attached is number 2's report. Any questions? And attached is number 3. So I had a comment, Mr. Mayor, that I'd like to ask the board. I really like the format that number 2 submits. They had 29 calls, but they did list in there that 15 of those were dispatched and canceled en route. Can we discuss maybe sending a format and just having like a plug and play for these kind of reports? Because they're all so different.
If the board would like that, yeah, I can send an email.
Similar to the reports. Just so they're consistent, it's very hard to, they're all in different order and some of them are there's not much to it, so. Does anyone have any objections to that, Mr. Fleming, Mr. Wiggin?
Agreed.
Okay. Because you make a note that we'll just send them a template, just similar to this. It gives the codes, what those codes mean, but, and then the incidents, and then that gives us a true number of calls and what's going on in the emergency department in our township. Attached is the West Beer EMS report. Are there any questions? I don't see Bill here today. Resolution, adoption of resolution 2025-9 vacant property program. A resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Township of West Beer confirming that the acquisition and subsequent disposition of a parcel of vacant land property known as block and lot number 2197-10 at the Nancy 065 is in accordance with the comprehensive plan of the municipality. Attached is a copy of the resolution. Are there any questions? I looked it up and I had it written on as a note on my iPad. Do you remember the name of that? Was it Beach? What is lot number is?
No, I don't.
Unfortunately, Mr. Shell handled that, so I don't know the actual address.
I wrote a note, but it didn't say what separate address. I know that it's a random address. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2025-9 confirming that the acquisition and subsequent disposition of a parcel of vacant property known as lot number 2197-10-065 is in accordance with comprehensive plan and meets the code. Can I get a motion? Is anybody gonna motion this?
Make that motion, Mr.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Motion by Mr. Swan, second by Mr. Hollabaugh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Adoption of resolution number 2025-10, Westside Fire Company number 3 sewer plant module. A resolution approving a DEP sewage facilities plant module for the Westside Fire Company number 3 is attached. Mr. Chief reviewed the PA Department of Environmental Protection plant module documents and found the plant module to be in proper order. Mr. Chief therefore recommended that it be approved by the township. Are there any questions? Or Mr. Chief, do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. This is in conjunction with the land development and the office building, which was approved by the board several months ago.
I have a couple questions, so really what are we doing with this? We're putting a building in?
Several months ago, a land development proposal came in for an office building on property owned by the fire company number 3. And that was subsequently reviewed by the planning commission and approved by the supervisors. One of the conditions of that approval was a secure sewage planning module approval. And the Allegheny Valley Authority and Area authorities have both signed off on capacity now. So that document would be in a position to go to DEP for approval.
So we are building the building?
You guys are not. The fire department is building a 3,000 square foot building for lease by the county for the match.
Is that a tax building? We're gonna have taxes?
No, it would be not. It would be governmental.
How could we go build?
It would be governmental.
That's not a tax law?
No, I don't believe so.
It's,
Property is owned by the fire company.
so fire company's gonna collect the money?
Yes.
Then that's fraud.
Yes, it's an investment for the fire company.
I understand that, and that's great to know. But I mean, how do you get away with not paying tax on the building?
That would be up to Allegheny County.
So the fire department stand to gain on a monthly basis?
The final total on that is yet to be determined. We still have some outstanding construction costs to determine, but the county is willing to sign a 20-year lease.
Is the county paying for the building or is it the fire department?
So the fire department would finance it, the county would pay the fire company back over 20 years, as well as pay a lease.
They would pay you guys back in the form of what, a grant?
No, they would cover the cost of the loan payment for the lease and their build-up costs.
And number 350 will be the recipient of all that.
Yes.
Will that lower the tax burden for the taxpayers of West Earth? We just approved $140,000 for each fire department.
Well, considering that the township fire tax does not cover 100% of the cost of fire protection, it would definitely help us meet our annual goals as far as spending. So it would alleviate some of the tax burden.
Is that going to be split between the 3 fire departments?
No,
It would not be split.
it would not.
So that's something we should look at in the future too.
Why is that?
I'm just wondering, I mean, did number 1 and number 2 get an opportunity to build a building?
They had that opportunity. They own their land that they're on. In fact, West Ear number 2 sold their property for a profit. So it's each individual fire department. It's up to them and their responsibility to maintain the property.
Well, good for you. You'll have more money coming in though.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how nonprofit can look like.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one either. I don't know if that's about how they agree.
I
So,
mean, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just
technically,
asking a question.
UPMC is nonprofit. Even though we own them, they bring in more money than they expend, correct? So,
They're not getting
The
tax
profit-
money from the local
Sure.
taxpayers.
but as a nonprofit organization, all of the proceeds that come into the department are reinvested into the department. It's not considered profit. Just like at the end of the year, if we have leftover tax dollars, it's considered a fund balance. It's not a profit. It gets moved to the next year and reinvested into the township. So there's no owners that are receiving shares or anything like that.
I noticed your name was on the applicant for the sewage model. Why wouldn't that be your president or West Anderson Fire Department? That was your person name on there.
I was the one that submitted the information, met with the civil engineer, and provided all the information. I was the contact.
Is that a normal procedure when you have the president have their name on the application?
No, not for applications. For contracts, yes. Secretary of the President would be the signer.
Any other questions? The motion to adopt resolution 2125-10 approving the PVD sewage facilities planning model for the West Virginia Fire Company number 3.
Make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Sloan, second by Mr. Hollowell, all in favor? Opposed?
Abstain.
Mr. Mayor, can you take the roll for that?
I'll go for that.
Mr. Holbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Sloan,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Abstain.
Mr. Bonner,
No.
Mrs. Jordan.
Yes.
I'm sure the motion carries 4-1-1. The motion 4-1 against and 1 abstention.
Has,
We'll forgive you if any of us. Hiring of part-time officers, the board received the attached memorandum from Chief Logan recommending the hire of Vincent Casal and Nick Costello for the positions of part-time police officer. Satisfactory background checks were performed on both candidates. Okay, I know you're both here today, but do you want to come on up for a minute? So we have your kind of bio in our packet with us, but if anyone had any questions for them. If not, I have a motion to hire Vincent Casal and Nick Costello as part-time police officers in West Virginia Township.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Hollowell, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations.
Which one of you is who?
I'm back.
You're Benny?
I'm
Nate. Nice to meet you.
back. Nice to meet you.
Nate.
Are you guys from Westfield?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck to you and be safe.
You too.
Okay. Authorization of live streaming equipment purchases. At the last meeting, the board discussed the purchase of live streaming equipment and agreed to the purchase in principle. Attached other proposals for the necessary pieces of hardware. These proposals total $7,505.86. In addition, the township will use to subscribe to Zoom Pro and Zoom webinars at a recurring annual cost of $849.90. The initial startup cost of live streaming would therefore be $8,355.76. Mr. Mayor, I know you sent us something after this was prepared, so if you'd like to update us on that?
Sure. This authorization, everybody sees there's 3 proposals behind them. There's 2 from Horizon. One is for moving the process of this right here from this room to that room because it's
expensive, really small as it is, it's an expensive piece of equipment that gets hit. So it doesn't belong under it belongs someplace safe. The other piece is a processor, streaming media processor. It's called the SMP 352. It's a standard across the industry. If anybody does Google search and types in these or streaming media processor, you'll see SMP 352 or SMP 351, like cover your entire screen. I asked Verizon, who came in here, hooked everything up. Verizon provided that, everything that's in that closet. They performed the installation, they also performed the program. I brought them in here, they met with the chief and I, and we went over if everything was possible. And this is what they gave us as a proposal. This price is steep. I mean, believe me, when I got the price, basically $1,500, I was shocked. But this is what the cost is for a piece of equipment like this. As the tech who came out here sent to us, you could go cheaper, but you get what you pay for in this. And we're in a situation right now, and everybody knows this, that if that system wants to go down for some reason, the next thing would be we did it on purpose. And we can't, if that's what people are going to be, then we need something that's going to be reliable in that room. The third piece of equipment, and this even alluded to this, was for B&H equipment for a MacBook Pro. I don't want a laptop Pro. As I said to people, and I said to Ms. Zena, and I said to Mr. Wayne yesterday, as you see here, I have a lot of different things. I just missed count because I don't have enough fingers to use with everything that's up here. But I have the iPad, which controls those two projectors. I have the phone that's recording. I have microphone controls and the camera and everything else control. I have the agenda. I have my notepad. And at the same time, I'm here to help supervisors, help keep them out of trouble if they go down a path that, of line of thinking that they should be going down, or just answer questions. And I'm sure people have seen a lot of times I've sat up here, there's been a question asked, and I'm perplexed because I'm paying attention to doing this. Mr. Wolzak mentioned one more thing to do, so I don't want another piece of equipment out here. And when I spoke with Verizon, what I asked them is there a way to do all this in one piece of equipment? And the issue is, I can show everybody right here, there are two cables that we have that go from this room to that room. HDMI cable and USB-A cable, which USB-A is the old type of cables, not what's with our phones and iPads, things like that now. There's USB-C. In order to use the system combined, I need both of those in one device. The problem with lesser laptops, and in this situation, Apple, I looked first at MacBook Air, which is a lot less expensive. They don't have USB-A ports on them. They just have USB-C. So we can't, they do not have HDMI cable ports either. So we're in a situation where I had to go to the MacBook Pro. And people say, well, why Mac? Why not go with PC? Because all the supervisors here have iPads. My iPad is basically the brains in the board to test that everything I put on my iPad for theirs, automatically transmitted to theirs. So we have an infrastructure in place that relies on map account to get everything onto the right apps. So we pretty much have to stick with map. What I said to the board today in a text was that Mr. Wade, when he came in yesterday, was I played around with this yesterday. I used the adapter. You see the white thing that hangs that setting off my iPad. And for the first time yesterday, I was able to get the camera to work. I tested Zoom, and I was able to get it to use that. And obviously, without that processor that goes in that room, you get the signal can't get out of this room. So I'm thinking right now, I might be able to use the iPad, or I might be able to use a MacBook Pro, MacBook Air to get this out. One of our administrative staff, Mrs. Moore, needs an iPad to go to MS4 inspections, which is stormwater. If I got an iPad Air, I could get it for my MacBook Air, I could get it for the iPad. My iPad, she could use that on the field. So it works with one step. If we don't do that, we're going to have to buy her an iPad anyhow. So that what I recommend to the board is just approve the motion with that not to exceed of $8,500. And as the board knows from past experience with me, if I don't have to buy something, I don't. I'm as frugal as it can be. I don't want an iPad, I keep saying that. I don't want a laptop because my iPad, with the exception of these meetings that come out here, come up here to, or if I go away to the conference, that's the only time I use my iPad. It sits on my desk the rest of the month. So I'm not looking to spend $1,500 or any amount of money. I just want to spend the least amount possible to be able to do what the board has assigned me to do.
Correct. Just a question on how we plan to incorporate this, and I know you do a lot up here. Would it be more feasible to have Mr. Shook oversee the Zoom part of it?
If this works the way I think it might be able to work, I might be able to eliminate, because the iPad also has the ability to record, and I'm using my personal iPhone. You can also use a recording device that goes in there, but that's an extra $1,000. And what I found, you know, through the old building, we had a recorder, it went out.
Right.
So I started using my iPhone, and what was fresh, I found was that the iPhone recording was better than that piece of equipment we have.
So just a question when you're not here in the
Mhm.
meeting, whose recording device do we use?
Mr. Shook.
He uses his
Yeah.
job.
And so we might have to do all three, because this can operate the recording like I use voice memos on my phone. That records the meeting. This has voice memos, so we could use that for that, eliminate that piece, and if these both work, which like I said, they did work yesterday, I could probably even show everybody. I found out a way, there's a workaround. The problem we have, to let everybody know, is when you try using the camera on Zoom, it uses the iPad's camera. But if you go to a thing called FaceTime, FaceTime switches the camera to external camera, which is that. So I was able to get it to work yesterday. So if this works the way I think you can, whether it's this or a MacBook Air, which is a lot less expensive, we could possibly do all three things from one position. There's another workaround. Mr. Wiggins, this is what I was looking at when we walked in yesterday. It adds an extra $3,400 to this cost, and that is a unit that goes in that room and makes everything wireless. You don't use wires at all. But I don't think that's necessary. Again, I'm trying to save as much money for the taxpayers as possible. So my recommendation right now is just to make the award from a not to exceed figure. I want to buy a MacBook Pro if I don't have to.
Have you looked into some students with the ID department or anything?
No, because you heard other suggestions today. YouTube, you lose ownership. That's been recommended across all the municipal associations that we're part of. They said do not use YouTube, do not use FaceTime or Facebook.
No, I'm saying the AV department.
So I don't think they're gonna be we get a kid in there, that comes here, you have to be here every month for this meeting, and if they don't, then it's gonna be our fault that we're not being transparent.
It's as simple. I did it yesterday when on test run. It was as simple as setting up a meeting on Zoom, and as soon as I did that, camera went live. So I'm believing that once we get the processor for that room, the streaming processor, that camera's going to be connected to that processor, which is going to be connected to the outside world. So I think it's as simple as when I get here, starting the Zoom meeting, start the recording, and if we need the two screens, turning them on. And I think it'll work seamlessly. It did yesterday.
So these other options from our neighbors, they don't have our system. It has to work with our system.
Correct.
We need an RU consultant to help you with this.
What's that?
We need an RU consultant, maybe IT guy.
We did. And that's the guy that came home with the chief and I.
Oh, really?
But we didn't pay him.
So this is free.
No, it's John Kaiser from Horizon.
Sometimes it's not fake, but that's for help.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did, and he came.
So does everybody trust that we're making the right decision here and making a motion to authorize the township manager to purchase the live streaming equipment that is needed and subscribe to the necessary service at a cost not to exceed $8,500?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second for the discussion on the Zoom webinars? Do we want to start with just the Pro and see what the needs are moving forward? Because, I mean, for what we do, Pro is sufficient, and you have the controls, and I think that we're looking forward from the township standpoint.
At the discussion last month, the board, obviously it wasn't a vote, and that's taking place right now. The discussion last month was to go with the webinar option. That's why I presented it that way.
But what other additions are we getting with the webinar for 690 that we're not getting with the Pro?
The webinar's allowing everybody just to watch. I mean, you're not. It's if you just go with Pro, it becomes a two-way thing. And the board is discussing, the board doesn't want to go as a whole. Does not want to go with the two-way.
But you have the ability to mute there.
If you do, then that's going to take a situation like that. It would take another person. Because I mean,
Well, when you start the meeting, you can mute all the users.
You can.
And how many users are available on the Pro? I see the webinar's up to 500 attendees.
I'm not sure about the Pro. I looked it up last month. It's more than what we had. Well, we used Pro before. That's what we used for when we zoomed before. We never had an issue.
I would suggest starting out low. If we see the need to move to the webinar because it's an annual subscription, then we upgrade to the webinar at a later time.
Again, that's what the board's decision made. So
I think the webinar is consistent with what others do. That's what we discussed last month. That's what I'm comfortable with. Does anybody else has something else to add?
No, I mean, like we talked last month, was it? Okay.
I understand the same.
Dr. Lewis authorized the township manager to purchase live streaming equipment. Are you noticing?
I'm not sure all of it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I second.
I'm sorry about that. Mr. Hall, motion, second by Mr. Fleming, all in favor? Motion carried. Sale of Millings reclaimed asphalt. The township stores and uses reclaimed asphalt from milled roads as part of the annual road program. The current stockpile is excessive. However, the township manager is recommending advertising and selling excess millings. The township code, however, requires the authorization by the board of supervisors to sell such a commodity. Mr. Rader, would you please elaborate on that?
this is probably more from Mr. Ship and I worked on this, but anybody who wants to behind the building, the install said there's a giant pile of millings. The millings are just reclaimed out asphalt that gets milled up before we put down another layer of asphalt. Because we've been doing so many roads, that pile's gotten way too large. Those are like gold in the municipal communities because it's something we use both on berms, on roads, which can pass beautifully. You put it on a berm, you roll it, and it becomes like another road. It's beautiful. And we also use it on all the alleys in the township. However, the stockpile we have up there is more than this township will ever use in anybody's lifetime. It's way more than we have need for the alleys or for the berms. Mr. Ship, would you agree with that?
Oh, I agree, you have.
You can work the tracks up there. That'd be easy, right?
We have any idea how many cubic yards you have up there?
I estimate probably about 7,000 tons. I don't know how much that is in cubic yards, but about 7,000 tons basically for the salt shed.
And are you looking to get rid of all of it?
Not all, but just a decent amount of it, so we have more than we can use.
Are we going to sell by the truckload?
Yes.
What's the price of it?
We discussed this, Mr. Ship, did you want to talk about that or?
Well, I mean, if the board's on, if the board is on board with the idea, and we're gonna have to canvass the market and see what the going rate is.
I'm hearing anywhere between $8 a ton to $20 a ton.
We have a minimum, because we can have people come up with pickup truck, driving up our guys like, oh, one ton here, a ton there. I think we need to put a minimum. Let's say $1,200. That's gonna be-
Your wholesale?
It's gonna take time to load.
The only thing I'd ask, if anybody that lives in the township wants millings, as long as they have a truck to get rid of them and take it, we give them a better deal.
Just like to have a flat discount.
Yeah, just a small discount for anybody in the township that wants millings, and they have a truck, or they rent a truck to get it, if they can take it, they get a better deal, and so the contractor can come in and scoop that up.
Well, usually you advertise for bid, we got something, we're something high here. That's what, that's what the code requires, portion, so.
So it would be a whole.
So you can sell the entire amount of what you want to get rid of at one time.
Yeah, if
But
it's
it's not gonna be a resident unless they can afford to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying afford it, could probably put it, take it, yeah.
Yeah, so his personal property, the town should over a certain estimated value, you can put it out to that.
So we can't bid out at like a certain dollar amount per ton.
I mean, you could set minimum, but, and you can set minimum volume, minimum amounts, but you have to advertise it and where the highest bid is.
So it has to be, we can't advertise this like we do about a used or another capital item. We just list for sale. Advertise it.
You can do that. As long as you follow the advertising requirements, to take highest bid, yes.
So you still have to put everything out for bid. So everybody's gonna have to bid every couple.
Well, I don't know what the best way to do that is, but the point is, the taxpayers' purposes, you want to, if the township has excess personal property, you want to make sure you're getting a target return on that.
Well, if that's the case, then it's probably be a larger company that can buy it all.
The other thing too is, if I'm gonna bid on it, it's not GPS, I'm gonna see how much you got. And I know what you have, so that's the biggest thing.
And then how much we're gonna keep.
That's why you have to know what you have on the top. Because if you wanna keep 50 tons or 100 tons or 1,000 tons, whatever it's going to use, you gotta know it's come out.
Is it blocking any roadways right now that we can't store it?
No, right now it's fine. It's good, that's gonna grow every single year.
Next year's road program, are we slated to mill a lot of the roads, and there's some of the roads, most of the roads we do mill now, just to let it service, but
Yeah, it's every year. So like I said, every year it's gonna grow.
I mean, there is another option when it comes to the road improvement project. You can dictate in the bid that the contractor is responsible for taking those. Because they do have some value back of the plan. So, you might see someone with perhaps savings,
Next year.
next year, yeah.
For savings greater than what it would be if we were bid it out.
Well, my understanding, and I think we defer to others to deal with asphalt, where basically my understanding is these asphalt plants, everybody's milling now. Unlike your past when a lot of people just did overlays, everybody's milling now. So the plants are getting enough money is milling up there. So their price savings or her price to purchase is not good.
what do they normally pay whenever you? Well, anywhere from $6 to $8 a ton, if they buy it back today. I think it's probably worth more than $6 or $8 a ton to a company that was gonna use it for a base or something of that nature, but we're gonna.
I think just advertise and see what kind of hits you get at it and go from there. And I would put the language in there to measure the pile themselves.
Trucks, they can do that.
Yeah, everybody can do it. So you go from there, and then we want to sell this whole pile, get rid of it, and then the next year keep some of the other stuff and just work cycle it in and out. I mean, whatever you want to do.
So do I motion to authorize the advertisement and sale of excess regrade asphalt?
You have to put a number on that.
Let's go cover it.
Right, it'd be high, sir.
And how much of it we're getting rid of, or that's really bad up for them.
Are we shooting ourselves in the foot for our road department? What if they need a bunch of it? I mean, it's like 100 tons.
I would definitely keep some of that, or guys can just move that to different locations, so it isn't.
Maybe we should, maybe like Jeff says, why don't we measure the pile, figure out just roughly how many yards we have and advertise itself, and maybe half of that.
Do you want to table this?
Yes.
I think we can go ahead and approve this, but we got to do those two steps first. Right. We would put that, yeah. Cut your quantity out. You agree?
I agree. Well, I agree we should keep some. I think our road department's gonna use it for a lot of different things. I think we should keep, I don't know how many yards are up there. Why don't we first measure it before we advertise it? First measure it and talk about this again. See how many yards we should keep. Maybe the road department involved too. Partnerships, give opinions on it as well. I mean, I think it's a good idea. If we can generate some income for the township, that'd be great, but I think we should keep a stockpile out for sure.
With a Wrangler, we have the roads for it.
The stuff is like, well, I mean, it's great.
Do other municipalities require so much of the millings be recycled into the product? Into the new road?
The asphalt plant now requires you to.
We'll see more.
Yes, some of them have virgin asphalt now too.
Right. Generally, there is a percentage of the mix that is using recycled asphalt. That's the reason the asphalt plants like to have those millers up there. Because they do mix it in. But you're correct. You can't use virgin mix to zero recycle.
So you're not doing to modify for the mission?
I'm not, sounds like,
I'm not
sure if you get to, unless the, let's do the project like a 12 table and just some extra amount, I would suggest you just be honest. I don't think any of the reimbursements we don't even write it.
Right.
You know, we just push this off to like, till July, we have recognition.
In the meantime, can we get Tom to figure out how many yards you're selling and how many yards you're keeping?
On board for the newsletter, the board authorized the township's annual newsletter as part of the 2025 budget. The following bids have been received. I think first we have to determine, are we going for 20 pages or 16 pages, and then we can go through the numbers. So you know the material that this happens to come with. What are you recommending, 14 double-sided or 20?
I'm recommending 20, and it's not just for the staff, it's for the, we put a lot of things in it. The centerfold is always the community days, like my agenda with the layout and everything, the schedule. We involve fire companies, because we use that as a recruiting tool for them. The police department, all their part staff, they have section, and between all that and all the articles that I think are pertinent to what the residents need to hear, need to understand, I think 20 pages is worth it. We did 20 the first year, so I could get a good idea of what we know of it.
I said, this is staff recommend 60, I said that wrong. So 20, so let's go 20, okay. The three bids for 20 pages, minimum price of $5,633.49. Raft Printing Company, $5,772, and Alpha Graphics was $6,397. There were two bids that were disqualified for incorrect quantity quoted in their bids. Do we have any questions about the newsletter?
I just need to clarify to the board, I don't know if everybody saw this in the report, but Mr. Shook, although the minimum price came in the lowest for that, at that price, or for this job, he's recommending Raft Printing because Raft Printing actually gave an actual estimate for the postage, where minimum price gave an option for that did not include an accurate. It gave a really low ball estimate for the postage. So Mr. Shook believes that when this is all said and done, Raft Printing is actually going to come a lot lower, and Raft is who we use the last two cycles.
Where are they located? Where are they located?
I don't know where Raft is.
It's on,
I have to find out. So.
it's on your, on page 89.
There's nothing similar.
What's the minimum price you're saying?
I don't know. This is what Mr. This was the memo from Mr. Show.
So you're saying they're both estimating postage costs?
Yeah, so Mr. Shook went back to them. He said he gave us a more accurate estimate when it comes to the postage. And they said no, that's the only estimate they gave, and it's extremely low. So when Mr. Shook looked at that, he said, there's no way they're going to come in. I want to say it's like a couple $100. And he said, there's no way they're going to come in that low when it's all said and done. They just gave it an estimate.
So if it comes in higher and they gave us a quote for lower, would they have to honor their quote?
But the postage is, in our quote, they say it's flexible, I believe. Come on, Mr. Shook said.
So they gave a range.
Yeah, basically.
The reason I asked whether like that, I know there's a minimum precedent that we've signed up to younger guys on it. They seem pretty hungry for work.
So that's the difference right here. If you look at this is what Mr. Shook mentioned. If you look at the bottom of the minimum price proposal, it says shipping charges are estimate only, and the routes is set. They have their range based on the amount is the most it could possibly be is $1.04 per piece. And that's at that cost. What Mr. Shook told me is it would be lower than what minimum price is.
We're talking less than $100.
And because he's so close, because he has experience working with RAF before, that's why he made that recommendation.
They did a good job in the past. Can we have,
Sure, I'll give it an input on this.
According to my craft Google research, that's the Southside company. So everything from Southside's gonna be okay.
So Mr. Shook wants to go for that.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
And that's what I'm asking Mr. Rob, are you okay with that?
Yeah, yeah, I think this type of service should need to take a lot of it, and it's still going to be a lot of it.
so before we finish with items to follow up, made a motion. Can you please explain this will be sent to every person on what list?
We have a combined list. This has been over between all three administrative assistants up here. You have Mrs. French is the administrative assistant. You have Mrs. Moya, who's the planning and zoning administrative assistant, and Mrs. Borchak, who is the plant police. Between all of them, they know we compiled everything. We know every residence in this township. That's the list that also goes to the refuse county hauling, and that's for all the residencies. And then because the police work with the businesses, they have all the business lists, and we're able to put everything, combine everything together, and it's as comprehensive as we can be. That this gets mailed to every single residence and business in the township, and it's also dropped off at places like the post offices, the senior center, things like that.
Is there a margin of error, because I don't want this to be,
There always is.
you forgot my aunt didn't get one.
Yeah, it's the same thing that goes with the trash hauling. Every time we switch carriers, there's always somebody the trash companies will find somebody that hadn't been collected in the past. So there's always a margin of error. I mean, that's why we use three different administrative assistants with all the database information they have to combine it to be as comprehensive as possible.
So we're trying to perfect it as much as possible.
All the time.
Motion by Mr. Holloway, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fleming, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Picnic tables purchased. The board authorized the purchase of new picnic tables for the Merrifield Park Pavilion as part of the 2025 budget. The township manager solicited bids from multiple vendors and is recommending the purchase of a new Dumore number 156 aluminum and engineered wood tables from customers. The vendor is George Eli and Associates. Because $5,000 was budgeted, but additional funds are available if needed, proposes for both 10 and 5 tables as well as the image of the table if it's attached. Are there any questions? Is this real heavy ones that are there now?
These are, there's a photo, I believe I've already used of it.
But these have a better top. The other ones have the circles.
Well, these, yeah, the ones with the circles are coated metal, and what we found with those, we can't use those anymore. What we can, we're going to have to use it in different ways because it's plastic coated metal, and everybody thinks they're great, but the problem with the plastic coated metal is that if they get net, they start to rust. And as soon as they start to rust, all that plastic just comes right off of it. I was appalled when I went to earlier this, it was still winter, I went to Merrifield Park to see myself the condition of all the picnic tables, and I couldn't believe it, how they were damaged, and I wasn't even made aware of it. So when I met with the public works foreman, we talked about the possibility of replacing as many as possible because they'll be able to do something with those metal lumber poles. These ones are heavy duty, they're aluminum base, but it's not light aluminum, it's a very heavy aluminum. It takes two or three guys to carry those. And they have basically what's on those top, the boards are track stacking. That's all. It isn't necessarily truss, but it's an engineered material. The reason that's good is if these break, the base stays good forever. It's aluminum. It's not going to rust. It's heavy. It's not going to go waste because people would have to bring a whole herd of people to carry it off. So if it was boards breakage, our guys can replace those using truss deck.
That somebody's still because of that.
Yeah.
What's the price of the
They're about $1,700 a piece.
1700? Appreciate that.
And that's what Mr. Funny and I were talking about this when he was chairman before we bought the aluminum ones for the first time. And they're still good. The bases are still good. The slides being
What
replaced.
about that same base with a womanized wood?
It's, yeah, it's,
What couches they in it in? It's terrible.
yeah, they make that
Positive.
thing with composite decking is you just, they break it to replace it.
Something's not good bad.
Yeah.
In the liquid board.
If we had to, like, guys, our public works crew, they're more than able to use whatever, whether it's luminous or whatever. The point is, I'm making a recommendation we go back to the heavy aluminum bases because that's going to be the longest lasting township. The ones we bought when Mr. Fleming was chair, what, 7 or 8 years ago, are still, the bases are perfect. It's the tops that are going down. So you just replace the tops, so you have to do this. You have to spend $1,700. So,
How much is it to replace the tops?
probably not expensive because if there's 8 feet and there's what, $35 for 16 feet per line.
So with a budget of $5,000, we're only getting 3 bids. So what's the budget?
Well, no, what I'm recommending is either 510 or 5.5. It's going to put us over the budget, but we have other places in the budget I can pull that from. But the board has to authorize that.
So Parks and Rec is always under budget with each line item as well, so. We just come from another line item in Parks and Rec.
Well, not another line item. It'll go over on that line item, but we have other areas in the budget that cover.
Where are we going to put them? In the pavilion or are we going to put them in each field?
The pavilion. Yeah, and then the ones that are currently at the pavilion, the metal ones will bring back to the public works garage. Those guys will, they find a way to get the plastic off using a torch, and then we're basically repainting all those. So, and now it's kind of, so they're able to get that on. So they can redo that as kind of like a winter project. It can be used as elsewhere, like even the sell field, and then the other ones can be used at the ball fields.
So do we want 5 or 10 bid pending?
You evaluated them, how many do we need?
There's 7 at the American Park Pavilion that are basically need replaced right now, and that's the pavilion that's right under us. The other ones are usable, so I'd recommend probably 10 and put 10 at the pavilion, and then the other ones that are there right now move to the other locations.
How long would it take to get these in?
4 to 6 weeks total.
Wow, you said you got bids from different vendors, why are they not in yet?
This is a co-source bid, the other ones were higher, and the one person is somebody who uses in the past, he's not on co-stars, and I just didn't want, basically from lack of any phrasiness, I don't want to embarrass him. He's also a resident, so.
Did we get a bid from the Amish?
You and your buddy.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion by 10 days.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wiggins, second by Mr. Fleming, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Playground surfacing purchase, Parks. The Parks of Western Township use special playground wall surfacing called 5R. It is designed to keep children cushioned when falling but without causing them to be injured from sharp pieces of wood. After inspecting our parks, Public Works Foreman and Township Manager are recommending the purchase of replacement playground surfacing for the playground at Harrisburg Park and the neighborhood parks in Encouragement of Washington. Any excess material will be used to replenish the lakeside playground. Multiple vendors were contacted for proposals, and it is recommended to use the company the township has used in the past, which is Fair in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. who is the lowest bidder of $25 per cubic yard and participates in this program. So before we have any questions, I know that there was something on Facebook, and I want to make it really clear. You don't need to file a petition to get anything. You just need to notify the staff of what the issue is. So if I made a call that weekend, you made a call ahead of me, and we took action on that Curtisville playground, which for whatever reason we didn't listen to Shane through that. So, are there any questions regarding the purchase of the playground or services?
How many yards of product are you receiving?
400.
400 yards.
I'm sorry, I didn't read the whole motion. The motion toward the purchase of 400 cubic yards. The playground servicing to bear Pennsylvania loan of $10,000.
That's 400 spread out between all of them.
Yes.
We're just adding to the rubber that's already there.
No, it's a lot of it needs to be, like the Curtisville playground needs to be removed and filled up to the full depth. Birdford Park and the Nike site just need topped off. So they're directly on top of it.
Can we add that we're just not going to mulch Curtisville, the redoing, getting rid of the rusty, like fixing things that are broken? We're doing exactly what the residents, the concerns they had, we're addressing all of them.
Yeah, to add to that too, for everybody, there's park lots, we call them park lots in Curtisville, Russell, and they're smaller parks. And they're always contentious, and I mentioned this to the lady who reached out to me and complained about the condition. She was right. I went there and we got on it ASAP. But it's contentious because a lot of people want it. People with kids, they want the playgrounds operated. People who don't have kids, it's a nuisance to get rid of it. So the board mentions all the time, they have to always weigh in, conflicting opinions in the township. And that's been what's going on there. We've dealt with this at least 5 times. Some people just say get rid of the playground, other people say it needs to be upgraded. So what the board's done in the past and what they're doing right now, what we're doing right now is just basically revitalizing that playground, making it more useful for all the kids in the neighborhood.
Do I have a motion? I'll motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. Oliver, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The discussion about building inspection. Mr. Oliver, would you like to start on that?
Yeah, last week I asked Dan to get some prices. That wasn't, to address one of the comments in the audience, I wasn't trying to say like, it's good for me, not for thee, good for thee, not for me. That's, I don't know where that comments came from. My building permit is already secured at that price. I just suggested that we get some other prices because of how much it was. Did you look into that?
I did. I put the memorandum in everybody's folder today to text everybody. Mr. Shook, Mrs. Morda, and Mrs. Starr, she there? Yeah. They came to put together the numbers the board is looking for. They got those numbers to me, and I was able to evaluate them and basically summarize it to the board. That it's not as much of a savings as people think to go in a house. And as we explored before, I think we have tested 3 or 4 different times, and we didn't get anybody to apply. The one that we kept tweaking every time, trying to get more and more attractive. And the last time we got one person who was not qualified for non-11. So what we're finding is that these companies, building inspection in municipalities is going more and more to third parties. They're basically sucking up all the building inspectors and bidding out to the municipalities because it's so hard for municipalities to get somebody who's willing to do that at that cost at basically what it amounts to seasonal work.
So the only benefit is the third party of the liabilities on that of the township.
Correct.
The only benefit, right? It costs.
It costs. But when you have somebody in the house, you have to pay for all those benefits. That's something I mentioned in the memorandum. It isn't just like vacation and healthcare and pension, it's also taxes. Those third parties are paying taxes, not the township, the wage taxes. So when you add it all up, there's not a savings in it. You may bring even, but that's not all you'll do. And like I mentioned in the memo as well, last year we had 142 residential building permits. One person was not able to do those simply because it isn't 142 per year. That third year is condensed between spring and
So you're overloaded in a certain time of year.
yeah,
What about,
and winter
I
is
know some of the surrounding communities, they use multiple companies, they come over for that.
yeah, we can. That's an option that we discussed offline. If the board looking to look into that, I can. And what Mr. Hall was talking about is some municipalities give people an opportunity to go with one company or another. So if you go out and get if you need a building permit and you need it faster, and one company says I can get on it right now, and another company says, well, I can get that to 2 weeks, maybe you can give the person the opportunity to go for it right from the start. But that's just what I heard. It's just pure scuttlebutt. I haven't investigated that.
And I don't do that, I also said because of the price, I thought the price was high out to a commercial building, so I thought, I don't do that really for a living every day, I thought the price was high. And again, that's why I asked. Well, just trying to do our due diligence to see, it's too late for me, but for the future development of West Hill, we're trying to bring development in, that adds a substantial cost that any project you're working on, so.
People usually build that in. It's like, when we did have in-house building inspectors, they became a commercial arena. The last building inspector, in-house building inspector we had did small light commercials, so they would do something like around the corners or something like that. They don't want to do anything like your building or that you just did, or anything larger like Vacant or anything like that. That would always be sent directly to PCS. PCS did this building, this municipal building. This is not something our in-house building inspector would do. So no matter what the board decides, you still have to have a third party for those larger projects.
Are you interested in this residential?
I just said we should source options, so if you want to use prices on the houses, it's low, I would like to say.
Do we have a contract currently?
We do.
I don't know off the top of my head. Does the township get any of the money from the permit fees?
Not per se. It's what happens. It's basically pass through. There's the money that we get. We take in for permits through our fee schedule. We get billed by the building inspector, and then we pay them out of that. So if there's anything left over, like that's it. It's not going to be anything substantial. Then yes, but it's usually about a wash. This will start with you, with that.
Yes.
So there's no way for the town to benefit by bringing it in-house?
We shouldn't, because we are a nonprofit. Although we're government, we're nonprofit. We're not here to make profit. We're not here to.
So we could save the taxpayers that money by bringing it in-house?
No, not from what, every time we evaluated this, we come up with kind of the same conclusion. And we got up to the nitty-gritty with numbers this time. That's in the memorandum of the central board. They did a really good job of putting all the numbers and estimating. And the savings it doesn't make sense. You might save $32,000. You can say, hey, that's $32,000 you can save, but in-house, or less cost. It'll cost us $35,000 more just for benefits. So you actually lose money in that situation. And again, what do they do in the winter time when it's dead? They total those house because there's nothing really to spend. I mean, it slows down, it still goes on, but it isn't like summer. Right now, it's going like that.
Anything else on that?
Yeah, it's actually, we just look into, some other places too, as well, other companies.
So with us being under a contract, would we be able to open that up?
You see, obviously depends on what the terms of the contract are. I have not reviewed that, but unless there's some provision that's an exclusive contract that the township not able to engage another third party, we try to be surprised if that was the case, but they maybe still want to take a look at that and let you know. But I don't think that the contract was covered the cost fees and services, not create that exclusive. We'll also change the copy of some precedent, so we have to make some preparation.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it could be confusing if you're gonna have more than one option. It gives the people the opportunity to shop for the inspector. And if one has a different price than the other, or the availability over the other. I mean, the groups that are out there, have a handful of inspectors because West Deer has 1,200 homes approved for construction. I mean, it's going to be a constant thing that, I think, and I'll just say, I think PCS I haven't heard any complaints about delays or not being available or, the inspection process.
Somebody is responsible to check on any, there's a question to check on. The equipment is $8,000 for us. I think it's reasonable to just see the comparisons.
We can do that. Like Mr. Roberts, we can look at the contract and it's easy. When Mr. Truck is back in location, that's something you can easily do, just switch out.
Okay, use of municipal property West Deer Delta Shelter. So I met with, where did we all did? I talked to Larry Knighting, who is the president of the school board, myself, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hall. I met with the school board, showed them out of what we'd like to do. So Scott, I think you said to put the dog shelter right there. Our concern is accessing all that property in the back and not having this in the way. Because there's a lot of flat property in there, we showed them that before. But we're trying to keep all that open so we can access any way that we can. So we talked about the options, and I reached out to Mr. Knight yesterday. They did have a voting meeting yesterday, but Mr. Norman Simpson, he did not get a chance to look at it, and they were advised by their administration to have him look at it first with you in person, and then they will address it in their August voting meeting because they don't meet in July. They understand the urgency. He is stressing the urgency that that's just where we stand right now. Yeah.
Do we have other options that are available besides the school district property? I mean, this
Not here.
spot over here in the corner,
No,
or
see,
where it's currently located.
the issues are, we brought this up when we went to school board. When you look at the grassy area or vacant area, you think, hey, that's a good location for it. But back here, we were talking about when I got in this while, there's no way to do the utilities out there. You have the geothermal field is out there, so you can't take it that way. You can't take it this way because the building's in the way. So that eliminates all that. The two locations that have utilities available are above the EMS property, which is Solarshire, and the property that we talked about on the other side of the South Shed Hill, which is also Solarshire property. And that's why we're looking for looking at the utilities.
So let me just ask, if we're trying to relocate this for future use of the property behind us, but the property behind us isn't usable because of the geo field, what could we possibly build there in the future?
Now the parcel that's next to us is usable. But this that geofield part of this parcel. So it won't walk across it at all. The geofield stops basically probably about 20, 30 feet, Mr. Shin, from the AV basketball where the dog kennel is.
20 feet beyond it,
Yeah. So it doesn't, on this side, go to this direction. So any development that might take place on the parcel, the old parcel, where the old building was, this building has that geofield. Correct, Mr. Shin. I'm sorry. If we built anything on the old parcel where the old building was, yes, that doesn't impact the geofield at all. Because the geofield is probably about 20, 30 feet within this property line.
We also talked about when we were looking at the plans, a possible community center or moving the existing public works garage, which is not on our property. We don't want that blocking all of that. So we discussed all of these options. Really, we don't have until the school board decides. So I think anything, but not getting ahead of ourselves.
And I think an important aspect of that too is we requested from the school district for wide to the road, connecting, did you already say this? I'm sorry if you did.
No, we didn't.
Okay. The road that goes between the EMS building and the old building is West Deer Road, that's what it's called. But it's not a formal road. part right away. So what we're talking about doing is connecting it the whole way from the east Union Road, the whole way up and around to the parcel on the top of the hill, which gives the township access to about 7 or 8 acres, correct, Mr. Shin?
At least.
Yeah, that could be developed in the future. And without that access, I said this to the school board when we met with them, we would literally have to have a bridge. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating this in the slightest. As you, Mr. Wheaton, you were standing there with me. It's steep.
Just want to fill back there.
Yeah. So you literally need a better bridge. So if the schools should just get grants, I said right away, we build the road, we have access in perpetuity.
So really, there's two different issues: the right of way for the road and the property for the dog shelter.
Right. And if you think about it this way, and I can put it up on the screen if the board lucky to, that right of way with that road cuts off part of the soldier's property. That's the portion of the township that
Which isn't a large portion. And the small portion would be beneficial to us. It's not really beneficial to them. It would work out great. We had a great meeting. I think we seem to be on board. It would give us, we have 5 years left of our lease for the roads department. We have all that property we could use in the back. It's a win-win for everybody, but we're waiting. So we're not sitting on our hands just wondering where we're going to put the dog shelter. This would be advantageous for a lot of different reasons.
Was there discussion on extending that lease for the public works building?
Sure, it could be. Depending on what board, that get in there as well. But if they tell us in 5 years to get out, it'd be nice to have that option for a small amount of money. Once we have access to our property. That's huge.
Okay, new business or future discussion or action?
Yeah, I have something, and I think regarding the meeting yesterday, regardless of the outcome, I was in attendance, and I felt there was some things that could be improved upon. First of all, there was a stenographer there. However, she did not swear anybody in. I'm not sure what the legal requirements are for that type of meeting, whether it's considered a hearing or it's informal. There was no solicitor present. I knew by talking to Daniel that the solicitor was not planning to attend, and then legal questions came up. And I think it's important for a panel who's deliberating these types of questions, have somebody who has a legal expertise in the zoning and building code.
Can I just jump in? So you would have to hire your own solicitor from just there. Township that's a separate independent body. So just like the zoning hearing board, I'm not going to give them legal advice. I'm not allowed to give legal advice to the UCC Board of Appeals. So it's up to the township to budget for it. I'm not aware of any UCC Boards of Appeals that have their own solicitor, because it's generally a technical review of the item that's in front of them. But that's something the township could engage. I could get some referrals to township.
Yeah, I'll just say the scope and authority came into question, and there's no legal. The applicant had legal counsel, but there was nobody representing, the township as far as legal or.
The township's not a party to the UCC Board of Appeals. Yes.
But we appointed.
You appointed one, correct?
And we
Just
for
because
the
this is
solicitor if we decided to provide one.
correct.
Could the zoning solicitor provide that service?
Possibly. I don't know if the solicitor has any expertise in code, that sort of code review, but we can certainly reach out.
Okay. The only other thing I'll say, two things. The applications. We have a standard application now for appeals, and it's in my opinion that Joseph, our zoning official, should be the one responsible for accepting those applications, verifying their accuracy and completeness, and accepting the fee, scheduling the meeting. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I feel that it should not be the responsibility of the secretary to accept that document and sign it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. We had that discussion internally recently because, again, this happens so frequently that we don't have any experience going through this. The last one we had was for this building, and it wasn't anything like what it was yesterday. But we didn't have an application at that point. So we're learning on the fly. One thing we learned from this is exactly what you said, that when an application comes in, it should go to Mr. Shook, and I would advise both Ms. French and Mr. Shook that when we get an application like that, it should technically go to, in this situation, Mr. Shernack from PCS to review it to make sure it's complete. And then once he says he gets thumbs up, it's complete, then have Mr. Shook sign off on it. So it's a learning experience, Mr.
Do we
Williams.
need a policy change for this? I mean, is this something that's
Not for the board.
agreed upon?
What
Can be
the
agreed upon?
what the UCC Board of Appeals can do is they can set their own bylaws if they want to. But they, again, that's so frequent. We're learning, like I said, we're learning all this on the fly. So, this isn't something, I mentioned to you before, the COG, which has 20 communities in it, had a UCC Board of Appeals for 7 years, and in 7 years, nobody got wants up 20 communities. So, they just disbanded it. So this doesn't happen that frequently, it's just awkward, and we've had 2 in the last 2 years.
No, that we have a UCC board. I think I've asked this question before. Would somebody from another township be able to use our UCC board?
So you would need intergovernmental cooperation agreement with other township, which is why having a COG, have the UCC Board of Appeals is really nice, sort of easy way to have all the communities have access to it. And as I was solicitors in Northeast COG, and I gotta tell you, I can give up to Daniel said, one of my tasks early on was there were questions about providing that. It came up in multiple COG managers meetings and I think board meetings. And it just sort of fizzled because literally no one ever applied in any of the member communities. So, yes, there's a long answer. Yes, other communities can use it, but we have to actually pay a governmental cooperation here.
Are you their solicitor? Do you know if that's because they didn't utilize that one or they chose to appeal to the state UCC board?
It's because they did not have any appeals to here. It really is. I know I've said this, I said it, and then there was an appeal within like 18 months of me saying these things never happened. But it is really rare, and I tell you, we represent my firm, 20, 25 municipalities, and I don't know any of my colleagues who have had the UCC Board of Appeals here in any of the municipalities in the past several years.
So I guess it's my opinion that if we're going to continue to do this, that the 3-person panel be offered the services of the zoning solicitor if it's feasible, so that they have somebody to call upon for questions just like we do with you here. And the zoning board does during their hearings.
I make that recommendation. I can tell you right now, I thought that, I haven't spoken with Mr. Love about this because we're not thinking, do we give them an agenda or do they come up with their own? If we don't give them an agenda, how do they know what to do?
Well, that's,
I mean, that's why you don't want to fly. These things are just freakish in a way.
so the other question that I have, and I understand, I know you weren't there, Kevin, but at the end when the decision was made and there was no vote taken, it was just here's our findings. Is that typical? And I think if they're going to deliberate, they should be able to deliberate in the executive office or the conference room.
Yeah, so when you say typical, like you said, these boards never meet, so there's really no typical, right? I would compare it to something like a zoning hearing board, which does have those executive sessions privately for deliberation purposes, so I think the answer is yes, that would be appropriate. And generally, any kind of public body that's making a decision votes, that has the members vote publicly.
Now, their decision, given whatever discussion, whatever topic they're deciding on, does that set a precedent?
It does not. These sorts of UCC boards of appeals, as rare as they are based upon the facts and evidence of that particular property, that particular plan, about that particular code section. So they're not bound in future for future appeals because it comes back later on.
Anything else?
Any announcements? I do not have any announcements. Is there anything that I can provide? No. Public comment on non-agenda matters of general township concern. Your comments on non-agenda related items, please get the person on phone, clearly state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thanks, man. I don't understand the procedure. My name is Mike McCary. I live on Railroad Drive. About a month before COVID, I bought a piece of property down on 6 Fargo Road. I came to the township. I went to the zoning office. I spoke with Bill Payne at the time, and I asked him about what I needed to do to complete this job. I told him what I wanted to do with the property. He asked me if I was going to add any additions to the property. I said no. And he said, I said, anything is at the end, I'll put a couple texts on it. He said, when you get to the text, I'll get your building permits. I said, okay. I proceeded on the building. As long as you're working inside, you can go. That's what it, I said, okay. So I started the procedure. It took me about 1.5 years to do it. During that time, he did 3 walkthroughs in my building. At the end, I went back to the township again, and I said, I'm all done now. They're not going to get the place out. They gave me the okay. Daniel was going to do that. I talked to Daniel. I said, can I rent the place out? He said, yeah. He said, okay. So I proceeded. I rented the property out.
Who gave you the okay?
Can I just ask, please don't have the board to comment because this is matters pending in litigation, so we're just here, Mr. Howard. You have 2 more minutes. Thank you.
I proceeded, so I rented the property out. It kind of came along, there was a zoning problem. We had a township, a zoning variance meeting, he gave me a variance pertaining. I agreed to a variance, provided I met certain qualifications. Some of those qualifications, in my opinion, are way extreme. You know, one of them is that I have to hire an engineer to go in and spend $30,000. It's $30,000 just to get them started, so you want to tear all my walls open and re-inspect everything. I had the place, the electric inspected. I had the plumbing inspected by the county. The property I was up and running, and now I've been empty for 10 months. My mortgage is ridiculous. It's just supposed to be my retirement. I'm up against the wall. I don't know what else. I'm kind of backed in the corner. I didn't want to take any legal actions against the township because I live here. And I was trying to be a good neighbor, and I didn't want to cause any grief with anybody. And I wasn't trying to point the finger to get anybody in trouble. But I'm up against the wall now, and I have an outside source with very deep pockets who's told me that I can use his attorneys to string that I needed to use it. I'm asking the board, please, can have some consideration for my situation. I understand everybody's situation here. I was just asking you, please have some consideration for me. I don't want to sue the township. It's really not giving me a choice if I can't help here. So.
Mr. Mayor, can you just clarify, because you mentioned Dan, but who's Dan? I'm Dan, I'm going to listen to you. Probably something else.
I can tell you that. If you thought it's good, it's such a bad
Mr. McCarty, you have my contact information if you're wants to discuss this matter. I'm happy to do so.
I will. Yes, okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for your time.
Skull Moles at Gamma Schuster Road. I wanted to thank Mrs. Jordan for last month's interruption, letting the Troca family have their little photograph experience here. That was a nice break from the meeting. Also, the Veteran Memorial, thank you for the work that you put into it before Memorial Day. I had the honor of driving a World War II veteran around on those days, and he was very grateful to see it. He did question, though, if we have the different branch plaques that were at the old memorial, if they're around somewhere for the different.
Here?
Yes.
Over
here.
At the base of the memorial.
Yes.
Base.
I'll ask her how works as that question because
And is that going to be moved sometime in the future? If that's going to be a right away to get back to, future development kind of thing?
it would be if of course, if the thing is voted, it would be moved. The original intent was to move it from there over to here. But we said, why not just leave it where it is for now? It serves the purpose. It's beautiful as it is. So
And can I have permission to keep that maintained every night? Can I do that?
Yeah.
sure, the Northern guys they didn't do it this year because it started raining.
They take care of it regularly though?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
You more
Yeah,
welcome
that's
to
nice.
the door.
Also, I was
treated like Scott treats.
talking to Dave or Mr. Shaw, and he told me that we don't have anybody that goes around with the maintenance or with the paving crews all the time. How do we know we're getting what we paid for when we're getting paid?
We do. Mr. Ship has an inspector on site 24/7.
So he's checking depths and widths.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was a mistake then. I can attest to the applications that we get on the zoning hearing board. We get some that are very well filled out. Every line's filled out with information. And then we get some that have 2 words on them and they're not very clear on a whole lot of information. And if we can work on getting those somehow more organized before they're submitted to us, that would be helpful also.
Scott Schernback from PCS. I know this is a non-agenda comment section. There's a few questions on item 23 that went unanswered that you didn't end up getting an answer on more you guys. Sure. Our contract renews annually with a 60-day out on either side. We bill the township monthly for 85% of the permit cost. The township maintains 15% of every permit cost. Most municipalities nowadays are with third parties, mainly because individuals who are fully certified are not billed. There's a few municipalities that maintain inspectors in-house for residential purposes, but they're all with third parties for so when we come into your town to do reviews or inspections, you're not just getting me, you're getting 2 other people that are here assisting me. So if I'm not here, I'm on vacation, they're billing. I think that's what went unanswered, but if you have anything else, I'm happy to answer.
Sure, you mentioned the contract and the renewal. Is there anything about exclusivity? I'm not suggesting you're not doing, this is not a reflection on the job review at all, but is it set up so it's the official third-party code official is only PCS, do you know?
The contract is not quite fair. Under the UCC, municipality has the right to have in-house staff, a third party, or combination of in-house and third party or multiple third parties. But I will tell you, multiple third parties is madness, absolute madness, because someone still has to be your building code official, one person for the state. Okay? I would not be your building code official if someone else here, so I do not continue to fill that role. It's just impossible to manage. It's an option, but doesn't make sense.
I have a question for you. Sure. How is your schedule as far as do you find yourself a lot of times, are you always available for inspections, or are they ever backed up to the point?
No, actually, we respond to every inspection within the time that's allotted by the state, which is 48 hours. Okay. We're always there. As far as reviews goes, we have 14 days to respond to residential reviews, 30 days for commercial.
Is 30 days to respond for
commercial, yeah. So we generally do that half the time or less.
The time that I had my inspection done, you were very prompt, so I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
I just had other concerns from other residents had questions, and I'll do my due diligence by asking these questions.
No. And I have no problem if you check prices, because you will find that we are one of the most economical firms.
I had a little sticker shop.
I did. So, and when we renewed things, Daniel had asked me specifically to try to keep residential costs low, especially for decks, small additions, so that the residents can get hit hard with that, and we make every effort to do that. Okay? Thanks, guys.
I just want to add real quick so that there's no confusion about the agenda. So if it says discussion item, that's exactly what it is. So building inspection, we had to discuss it. We can't discuss things outside of of this, for all of us to have a discussion, and there be a quorum. That's how it works. We can't discuss it outside of here. Award, we're going to award something, we're going to do something, we're going to adopt something. Everything else is very simple. So I'm not sure what you think we're missing as we say what we're going to do with every item. But a discussion item is just that we haven't talked about it before. So we're here talking about it in front of you so that you can hear the discussion. So it's pretty straightforward there. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Can I just say to that discussion point, I mean, when I asked to have things added to the agenda for discussion, I mean, we provided some background information. I think it would be helpful to give a little bit of the detail as to the scope of the discussion. Not leave, a very broad topic so that, people can ask questions or inform themselves prior to the discussion. Because again,
some of our neighboring agendas are very thorough. We give a lot of information.
but I think we can do better. I mean, if we have some more detail on there so they understand what the discussion is going to be about.
Victoria Austin, Hemlock Street. And I apologize, Mr. Holmglaw, because that was so vague. I thought it was about your fee and not about who's doing the inspection. And that's what I'm saying. If there was just a tiny bit more clarity, I wouldn't have even said what I said. So that's,
Just trying to save you money.
Okay, what I just gave you is a folder working with the Planning Commission on the workshops. I brought this to the attention of Alan and Patrick. This is a folder about data centers and AI centers. These are popping up everywhere. The old Duquesne Light site down in Springdale, Cheswick, that is now going to be a data center. And at last month's meeting, Mr. Mayor was talking about electric rates going up. Well, commonly when a data center comes into a neighborhood, the electric rates skyrocket because of their use of the electricity, also water rates. They use a tremendous amount of water. They commonly do not employ very many people except for just building the initial building. Otherwise, it's basically thousands of computers running. So I put in this packet, I showed it to Alan and Patrick, and they suggested that I provide this to everyone. A sample ordinance on data centers from York County, PA, and just some information. EQT that recently purchased Olympus has stated, and there's a newspaper article in there, that they're segueing from selling their product as LNG to fueling data centers. So that just shows you that this is the up and coming thing. So I just wanted to present this for anyone to peruse and think about, but at some point I think we should add something to the ordinance regarding these data centers. Otherwise we're going to be blindsided and possibly face really high electricity and water rates as a result. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Do you have to give the planning commission permission to consider this ordinance?
There's no magic from legal effect. Just like this, we put on the planning commission agenda.
We just received this, so we can put that away.
Let me just say, I gave one to Alan and Patrick, but I'm going to, at the next planning commission meeting, I'm going to give the same thing you got to the rest of
But that's the
the
same reason why we got ahead of the solar farms.
Right,
And,
right.
and it's like, you're hiding something, but no, we're not, we're trying to be proactive. So it's the same thing, but we need a minute to look into it as our solicitor
Right.
looking into the solar. So, I'm not prepared to make any decisions, but
No, I wasn't asking for a decision. This was just for,
just need a minute to look at things. And luckily, we are seeing the solar because he brought it to our attention. He made sure it was at the people. Just what we-
I would just ask for consensus that the planning commission be allowed to discuss it.
I'd like us to discuss it first, it's my opinion, to review it first. I don't know what I'm asking them for without it was just thrown in our lap.
Well, they're the recommending body. I mean, they're the ones that
But we're the ones
do
who
the
vote.
research.
I'd like to ask them what my concerns are that I'd like them to look into. Let's hear them.
Well, I don't know what my concerns would be because, nobody's
Well, they're
had
not,
a
they're not
discussion.
first minded either. They're not, none of them working decision. We have to look into what this cryptocurrency data mining, we're still into it. It's not, doesn't be done right today. Unless the rest of the board thinks so.
I would like to give them the opportunity to at least go.
George Thomas, McGregor Drive, Russellton, West Bend Power territory. I question, I forget, every so many years you have a franchise agreement with the, I know, telephone company, internet stuff. It comes around every once in a while, and there's a de minimis revenue item in the budget where they charge a fee and that's on the township. When those agreements come around, I'm not sure if they come and do it. I have not noticed any presentation or any declaration of what the heck they're doing for our area. Most importantly, a month ago we had a severe storm and we're out of electricity. Just this afternoon, trying to work on a computer in my office, I was interrupted 5 times with power interruptions. I've shut the computer enough to shut the computer off and everything else. It's like I would like to see every one of the utilities say what they're doing for us here, because that kind of situation, I don't know how you can expect, if anybody really knows any better, growth in either business or residential. Why would they come here? I would say if you got the infrastructure right, you got a good neighborhood. And it's really unacceptable. The month ago storm was unusual, and everybody was on top for many periods of time. But I regularly have outages in Russellton with West Bend Power. I do know other places have it out with Duquesne Lake. So all the utilities, I think, should put their toes to the fire, find out what they're doing for us out here as far as improving the infrastructure so we have reliable service.
Jeremy Schaefer's he's actively been looking into what the problem is. He's looking at that on behalf of his district.
Okay. And the internet service and some is erratic. I know there's fiber optic cable in case it's consolidated. They have fiber optic cable that ran from Gibsonia, maybe as far as, let's say, St. Victor's Church, Bedford, thereabouts. Other areas, I don't know what Verizon's doing, Armstrong, the other utilities, but unless we get that straight, we're a third world country. And with all these interruptions, that's kind of the way it's going there. So, yes.
I work from home.
If you're trying to get something done,
I work from home every
George,
day.
I can say Consolidated was purchased by Conglomerate out of Texas, and they have no plans on updating their infrastructure or in fact maintaining it for that matter.
yeah, well, how that happened was there were about 1/3 of the stock of Consolidated was owned by this search spotlight company, Searchlight, I forget the name out of it. It was a venture capital company. They invested in it. They were lending money to the company when North Pittsburgh bought Flyhouse in 2008. Then Consolidated took over in 2008. And then they went to these other work, and they just didn't keep up with it. And they did the last job. I used to work for North Pittsburgh a little bit. My father worked there his whole life and retired from there. And Consolidated just kind of ran that company into the ground, as far as I'm concerned, because they had a lot of commercial customers that used to do Penguins and all kind of customers all over the place. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their future plans are. But then, just recently, as you said, they decided to buy a Comstock and private. So I'm not sure what the future holds. But we got other companies too, other providers that are, Comcast, Verizon, and just one extent or another, various.
We only have 2 of last year.
Verizon and Comcast. And, yeah. Well, it's like we should be better. We should be having better. That's all I can say. So I don't know at the township level whether you can do something to improve that. I don't know. Or through the COG, maybe on a more regional basis. Thank you.
Good evening, contractors, 37 Crowwood Lane. I didn't really have anything to say, but I just wanted to address the issue that just came up about the discussion items, and because I'm the one who's brought it up a few times. All we're asking for is when discussion items come up multiple times, like the dog shelter, both items tonight, that there's some additional information be put into the agenda so we can address them properly, not make assumptions or anything like that. That's all we're asking for. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Any comments? The motion to adjourn. What? Do you have a motion to adjourn at 8:46?
Motion.
Yes, by Mr. Reagan, second by Mr. Salon, all in favor? Opposed? Hey, you all for